Welcome back to my channel, Simplified English 101. If you are new to this channel, please remember, like this video, leave a comment. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when a new video is posted. Today's lesson will focus on characters and characterization in the short story To Dado in Memoriam by Paule Marshall. Let us begin. As expected, I am going to give you pointers so you can follow along as I go through the explanation for each. Now, we are going to focus on only two characters, the two major characters, but of course, I've listed all the characters mentioned. The narrator is mentioned, the grandmother is mentioned, Dado, the narrator's mom and father and sister is mentioned, as well as our family or people from St. Andrew. We will not go in depth in all the other characters. We are going to focus on the two characters, the two major characters for this short story. So let us move on and look at the first major character. Characterization of Dado. She's proud, she's 8 years old, and a list of things I've pointed out for you. I am going to explain these for you in depth, so follow along with me from the pointers given. Dado is both a round and a dynamic character. Why do I say this? As a round character, we expect our round characters to be the major character. We expect them to be realistic with consistent personality. We expect them to be fully developed with traits like real people, you and I, of course. We expect her to be interesting and layered. And the truth is, she is all of these things. When we met her first, she's the narrator's 80-year-old grandmother who was born and raised in Barbados. She's the mother of 14 children, the narrator's mother included. Now, this 14 kids is not surprising or should not be surprising because based on the time period, a woman saw her child as their pension, a chance for a better life. So the more, the better. As a round character, she represents a woman in that era, especially women in the poorer class. Based on the information that I presented in a previous video about the setting of the short story, we did discuss the idea of women then having more than one kids, especially as remnants from slavery. Now, she is described as a small, purposeful, painfully erect woman. That's the first thing the narrator saw when she saw her grandmother. Age has gotten the better of her in the sense that she does not stand as easily and freely as she would if she was younger. However, age has not caused her to lose her vigor and her energy, as she is still able to stand erect, though painful. It makes her appear determined. She reminds me of the quote, "Age is just a number," or "Age has nothing on you," or finally, you can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old." Like Dado, she is bending. Age is causing her to bend. However, the fact that she is basically forcing herself to stand erect, though age is getting the better of her, shows us how determined she is. She is a woman who will not just easily roll over and die. So she is a strong character to reckon with. We see this in Dado. She has aged, of course, based on the description. It shows on her, yes, it does, but she has not, again, lost her energy. She has not lost her strength. We know that with age comes sickness and many ailments. Yeah, that's obvious. The narrator stated that there was a clear struggle taking place within her body, an intense, unrelenting struggle between her back, which was bending ever so slightly under the weight. So, Dada was very old. She felt it. She knew it. And based on the description given, we saw it. However, the description of her being purposeful was accurate, as Dada was not going to crumble because of age. As a round character, the narrator has presented her as a typical Caribbean monarch who knows that age is upon her, but doesn't feel old and is not ready to give up and die. We know that Dada has a sense of fashion, and possibly in her younger days, she was possibly, if you want to call it, a hot gal. She's a hot girl, yeah? Though her clothing was a long, severe, old-fashioned white dress, she had a nice taste, as that same old-fashioned white dress, the narrator pointed out, was still alive in the bustling present. So, Dada knew how to put herself together. She can dress. She knows quality. She knows good stuff, yeah? She even wore high-top shoes. Now, in today's society, a high-top shoes is any shoes that extends above the ankle. That's what it really is. It's more like a Converse or an Air Force One or a Yeezy. That's the most fashionable one now. So grandma was wearing something like a Yeezy, right? This tells us a lot about her sense of fashion and taste in clothing and how she puts herself together. Remember, not everyone can pull off a pair of Converse with a long white dress, but she did. We know that she did this because the narrator talks about it as being alive in today's fashion, simply meaning that although her clothes appeared old, she had it for a long time clearly, the fashion did not die because people still dressing like that in the granddaughter's era. This, in our eyes, in my eyes, makes her a round character who is layered. She has substance. We also know that her face is unattractive, physical description now, based on the narrator's vivid description. Just imagine maggots eating the flesh from something. All that is left is bone and the hollow spaces that were. It will make you look ugly and creepy. Now, this is the image painted about Dada's face. Just imagine again, meeting this image for the very first time. This is what greets you. You are naturally going to be afraid. You might panic. You might feel out of your comfort zone and unfamiliar with what you see, especially if you're not used to it. Though Dada's age shows on her face, her eyes tell another story because the narrator says that they were lively, unnervingly for an old woman with a sharp light that flicked out. So, Dada is only old in body. You know them Caribbean monarchs, those Caribbean grandparents who the age shows on their physical body. But the way them dress, when you look into their eyes, the way that they speak, you say, no, she just find her age. That's what we say in the Caribbean. So, Dada is only old in body. She only shows this in her physical being, but her spirit, her internal animal is still young and alive. The truth is, old age can do wonders for some people. It can cause them to look terrible. This depiction, though horrendous, is realistic of a woman who is carried to birth 14 children in a time period where Blacks in Barbados were physically, mentally, emotionally, financially deprived. They were struggling. So this is a perfect depiction of Dada. And again, a well-developed round character. As humans, when our physical appearance is not what we want it to be, it can take away from our confidence, especially for a woman that's aging. The truth is, if you're not aging like fine wine, we sometimes don't feel confident. You know the term, you're aging like fine wine? Yes. If that's not the case, we tend to not be as confident as we used to be. Based on the description given of daughter, she was not pretty, but she was confident and proud, yet a little arrogant. She is afraid of machines and technology and is very competitive. We saw that in her interaction with her granddaughter. She competes with her about whose home is better, which weather is better, the land, nature, etc. She always begins her conversation with her granddaughter by saying, I know you don't have anything like this in New York. It's almost like a child. That is the image that comes to mind in her interaction with her granddaughter. It is most the children who would actually begin a conversation with something like this. I bet you don't have anything like this. So it makes it easy for her to connect with her granddaughter because of her personality, the type of person that she is. A child is naturally competitive. Dado is competitive also. And one could assume that this shows the connection or helps to present the connection between her and her granddaughter. In her competitiveness, she tries to show her granddaughter that she and the island of Barbados has all the real and natural things, while New York, where her granddaughter lives, has the cheap imitation of the real thing, which is from Barbados. She's proud of her island. She enjoys the simple life in comparison to what New York brings. This is why she takes her granddaughter on these walks in the daytime to show what St. Thomas has to offer. All this makes her a good round character. She loves, she's caring, she's strong, though her body is frail. She has fears, she's proud of herself and her homeland. She isn't comfortable with change, especially for a woman her age. All of these qualities are qualities of a real person, a real Caribbean person, a real woman who is in her 80s. Even though she has this competitive relationship with the narrator, she does feel connected to her. She prefers her grandchild to be fair-skinned, and based on the setting of the story events, this preference is natural. Despite their striking differences, Dada's youthful element, her determination, her competitive spirit, among other things, allow her to form a connection with her granddaughter. Again, all of these things are elements of her own character. Dada can be described as a dynamic character, in that when we met her, she appeared confident, lively, purposeful, and competitive. Despite the description given about her frail body and the intense, unrelenting struggle between her back, which was beginning to bend ever so slightly under the weight of her 80-odd years, we can tell that this shows her character. Again, as mentioned earlier, this also shows how determined she is in her ability to keep her back straight when gravity is pushing it towards the ground. So when she finally gives up in the end, this is where the significant change comes in. All the strength we saw in her in that beginning of the story was gone as she struggled with the pressure of her granddaughter's youth. She struggled with accepting the changing world and slowly accepted her defeat. The narrator says that all the fight went out of her at that. The hand poised to strike me fell limp to my side. She continued. The next morning she appeared thinner and suddenly indescribably old. She remained like that until we left. It is almost like we saw a sudden physical deterioration as well as emotional and mental in her. Remember that dynamic characters usually undergo significant changes. These changes should be observable. They can be internal, they can be physical, they can be many things. Once a character changes and it is noticeable, once a character changes, then they are seen as dynamic characters. Dada's attitude changed in that her competitive and determined spirit disappeared. It was almost like she didn't have anything else to fight for. Remember, students, that literature is about mimicking reality. As such, when our characters grow or change, it makes the story feel realistic as we can see and understand their true feelings, their inner thoughts, and their values. As a dynamic character, she was able to make the story interesting. We could understand and identify with her and her competitive spirit, as well as her fear to change. We could understand the defeat and its impact on her. She forced us to become invested in her and the relationship that she is involved with. So, Dada is a round character. She's also a dynamic character with many personality traits of a real person. Let us move on to characterization of the narrator. Remember that the pointers are there so you can follow along as I explain each to you. Also, remember, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and, of course, hit that like button. Now, many persons, let me not say many, let me not overgeneralize. Persons have reasoned that the narrator is a static character, the narrator doesn't change, and we don't know a lot about the narrator, and that's not true. While it might be easy for some to agree, I do disagree. This is because a static character usually remains, as I said before, largely the same throughout the story. Even when their environments change, they remain the same. They do not change physically, emotionally, intellectually. Static characters just don't change. Remember also that static characters are usually not major characters. With that being said, the narrator would be a dynamic character. Now let's look at the reasons behind this. For one, when we met the narrator, she was only 9 years old. She was visiting Barbados for the very first time from Brooklyn, New York. Like her grandmother, the narrator is strong-willed and very competitive. While she does not give us much about her physical description, we know that she was a small-framed with dark skin. As a child narrator, she pays attention to details, and this can be seen in her description of the setting, the other characters mentioned, and their interaction. The narrator's confidence is seen when she first meets her grandmother and the two stare at each other without touching. She says, instead, she leaned in close. She peered hard at me, then quickly turned back. It was almost as if she saw something in me which for some reason, she found disturbing, even threatening. We looked silently at each other for a long time. Our gaze locked. She was the first to turn away. She describes herself here as determined and not afraid. We can say that her competition with her grandmother started at that very moment, when she stated she was the first to turn away. This could suggest that right there and then, there was a clash between them, the moment they met, a clash between the young and the old, a clash between the two cultures, Barbados and New York. Remember also that I did point out that static characters do not change. And when we met the character, she was brave and confident, and automatically some level of competition we could pick up. I did point out also that static characters do not change even if their environment change. They tend to have the same outlook, the same behavior throughout the story. In this story, we saw a little change in the narrator during their ride to St. Thomas, in comparison to them waiting in the shed in Bridgetown. The narrator, who appeared confident and brave when she met her grandmother and refused to be the first one to steer away, claimed that she feared the giant weeds, the journey to St. Thomas, the canes that resembled thick forests with sharp blades that seemed to be closing in on them. So this narrator had a change. She too was overwhelmed like her grandmother by the alien sights and sound around her. Just like her grandmother, the change in the setting contributed to the first change that we see. As such, she longed for the familiar streets of Brooklyn, where she felt most comfortable. A second change is presented when she finally appeared to have won the competition by telling her grandmother about the Empire State Building. We notice that though she appears still competitive, as she says, while I followed triumphantly, but she became more analytical after she felt that she had defeated her grandmother. Even the way she describes her seems to have changed from that cold, dreadful picture to a more accepting and understanding image, which is seen when she follows behind her and says, yet strangely saddened behind. Right there, we know that she feels a certain way. She knows that she has done something to her grandmother's spirit, and she has acknowledged that. This is a change. As such, she cannot be a static character. Remember, a change doesn't have to be physical. It can also be their thought process, their attitude, their values, etc. By the end of the story, however, we notice that the character we met as a child is now an adult. This is also a change. We also notice that she's an artist. So that means that she has grown intellectually and mentally. Now, as an adult, this narrator seems to bear some sort of guilt for her grandmother's death. And at the end of the story, she says, I was grown and I went to live alone, like one doing penance. Now, penance has to do with inflicting punishment or on oneself because they feel like they've done something wrong. Rather, it's atoning for your sin. It's acknowledging that you did something wrong in your previous years or in the past and you want to make it right. So the fact that she says that she's doing penance also links her to some kind of religious affiliation. We are also aware that penance is associated with the Catholic faith. So this also tells us or gives us an outlook of her religious view. The fact that she is doing penance suggests that she has grown. Additionally, the fact that she only paints seeds of sugarcane, Van Gogh, and the palm trees and tropical landscape shows that the narrator has embraced her culture, the same culture that her grandmother wanted her to embrace and love as a child. For these reasons, the narrator is seen as a dynamic character as well as the story's protagonist. This has taken us to the end of our video for today. Do not forget to like this video, leave a comment if you so desire. Don't forget to subscribe, that will help me out. And also remember to hit that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when a new video is posted. Until then, bye.